Welcome back here to Cam's Pizzeria, Lemoyne Plaza, 1135 Salt Springs Road, right on Lemoyne's college campus, here with Pearl Washington, Syracuse Orange men's basketball. Great. Talked about a lot of things, including Boeheim's press conference, one for the ages, one to remember in history. We talked about B.J. Johnson leaving, as well as Ron Patterson. And now we're here to talk with you about our brackets. You're watching us on the Wake Up Call DT YouTube channel, and you're also listening in on WakeUpCallDT.com and the free Wake Up Call DT app. So thank you for tuning in and for listening in. Pearl and I, since day one of the round of 64, have been tied. To me, that's a good thing, because we brought in Pearl for the Cam's Bracket Challenge, and you put your bracket up against his. So my whole mentality is you're going up against me, and you're going up against Pearl. So wherever Pearl is, I know that they'll respect you for it. When you're a broadcaster, you get attacked when you make the wrong picks. But for you, I mean, you're etched in the history of Syracuse forever. So as long as you and I stay on the same path, then I'm okay, you're okay. So right now we're tied once again, but we're gonna take a look at the bracket. Now the round of 64 and the round of 32 all happened, so now the Sweet 16 is upon us. Sweet 16 wise, what were you most surprised about the teams that didn't make it to the Sweet 16?
Well, I was surprised to see that Villanova didn't make it. I thought Villanova was going to get close to. I thought they would get to the 30th. I guess the 30th teams. But they had a tough loss to Austin. I was talking to some Villanova people in New York, and they were saying that Villanova just wasn't big enough to win that game. So. I still got Kentucky winning the whole thing. I think a lot of people are talking about Kentucky this year and saying that they are a very special team, and they got their big guys that are doing very well too also. So I just think Kentucky's going to win it all.
We look at Kentucky, and I want to say this, because if we at the round of Sweet 16, if we had a choice and you could take either the left side of your bracket or the right side, if I took the left side right now, I'm in good shape. I had 7 of 8 going to the Sweet 16. The right side is where all that red pen is coming in. But to go to the to go to the Midwest, Kentucky makes it. West Virginia made it. They're going to play each other. You and I had Kentucky, Maryland, and then Notre Dame and Wichita State. You had Notre Dame and Kansas. Were you surprised? I mean, I know you picked Kansas over Wichita State, but were you ultimately surprised that they won that game? Because to me, I felt like it was the air of redemption. I had them winning. I felt like they were going to beat Kansas. I haven't been really buying into Kansas in the last few years because I don't think they're as good as people say they are, and they always end up being a 2 seed that loses somewhere. But what did you think about Kansas-Wichita State?
Well, I didn't really realize that Wichita State is a very, very good team. They are a number 7.
Yeah, they were ranked 7th.
Ranked number 7th, right. So I didn't really think they were that good, but I think that big center, that 7 feet tall, can handle the ball, can shoot the ball from the outside, and also can get to the basket too. So I didn't really think of Kansas being that good. Not Kansas, Wichita State,
right,
being that good, but they are very good. So I think they, they may have a chance.
Notre Dame has been a team, out of any team that I've seen in the last few weeks, when they have a scoring drought, they somehow are the only team in the ACC tournament. You watched all the games. I was down in Greensboro. Every team that had a drought lost. North Carolina, Duke, Louisville. Anytime a team had a drought, they lost. Notre Dame was the only team in the ACC tournament. They had a long drought against Miami in the second half. They had another drought when they played against North Carolina and had a 23-point swing. They end up going up against Butler, who's always a team you don't want to play. They're like a Gonzaga now. I think they've both earned respect in the NCAA across the board. Notre Dame goes to overtime, and they outlast Butler. So they've outlasted Duke, North Carolina, and Butler in the last few weeks here. What do you think that says about Notre Dame, and do you think that they're an extremely dangerous team at this point?
Well, when you look at Notre Dame, and this is their first year in the ACC tournament?
Second year in the ACC, first time winning, yeah.
First time winning it, right.
Yeah.
So I thought they did a great job in the ACC tournament to be able to go how they went, and then to get to the final game and have an opportunity to win was great. So I just think Notre Dame is a team that, can possibly get into the Final Four.
You have Kentucky winning it all, so do I. Notre Dame, Wichita State are playing each other. I'm not really worried about West Virginia playing Kentucky, but whoever wins Notre Dame, Wichita State, can you see them, even though we both pick Kentucky, would you stand to reason that they can win that game or no?
No, I don't think they can win against Kentucky, if that's what you're saying. Kentucky's just too big, they're too strong, and they're great athletes. And, wouldn't be surprised if you see all 4 or 5 of those guys coming out next year to go to play professional basketball. So I just don't see that. If that happens, I mean, that would be great for Notre Dame. Be awesome.
Now, Villanova, you and I both lost in the east side, so they're not coming to the Dome. Syracuse, New York had the opportunity to have Villanova show up as a 1 seed or Virginia as a 2. They both lost. It's the only bracket to have a 1 and a 2 lose. So now we have Tom Izzo, Michigan State. Doesn't matter where you seed him, 7th, 10th, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 5th. Doesn't matter where you put him. He's coming to the Dome. Louisville's coming to the Dome. NC State and Oklahoma. Louisville and NC State have an advantage because they played in the Dome. They play in the ACC against Syracuse. They're playing each other. What do you think about NC State Louisville now that Villanova's out of it?
Well, I still think that North Carolina State may have a chance to beat Notre Dame. Is it Notre Dame we're talking about? Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville. But, Louisville is a great team. They work hard, they play hard, and they do everything they have to do to win games. I mean, when they leave that court, they leave that court with everything on it because they work hard at it.
NC State beating a 1 seed. Out of all 1 seeds in the round of 64, Villanova had the biggest margin of victory by 41. Wisconsin had the smallest by 14. Did you ever think, and I know obviously making the bracket you didn't, but going through that NC State game or knowing what you know about NC State, I got to see them up close. I got to see them in the ACC tournament, got to interview a lot of their guys, be in the locker room with BJ Anya, Ralston Turner, Trevor Lacey, the whole group. Did you ever think that NC State was going to cause a problem to Villanova, or was that something that you never saw coming?
Well, they caused us a problem last year when we went down to ACC tournament. The first game we played in the ACC tournament, they beat us. So after the game, I was looking around, oh, my God, I can't believe we lost to them. I thought we was going to get maybe to the 2nd or 3rd round, but NC State is just a great team, man, and they do what they have to do to win games.
The other side of it, Tom Izzo's team, I've said it before, if you ever want to see a 16 seed beat a 1, make it Michigan State as the 16 seed. Is there any coach better in the NCAA tournament than Tom Izzo when it comes to getting his team to the Sweet 16? I mean, record-wise, the guy is uncanny with what he can do no matter what happens in the regular season. But when you look at coaches, you look at the Rick Pittinos and Coach K, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim, Tom Izzo. Is Tom Izzo to you the one if you had to put your money on somebody? And I know you played for Boeheim, but when it comes to history and what they've done and what they've been able to put up, is Tom Izzo the best?
I would say he's definitely one of the best. I just think that, how he runs his program with his kids, I just think they do a phenomenal job. They know how to get in, and like you said, it doesn't make a difference what spot they in. They'll end up getting maybe close or to the Final Four if that's possible for them.
Syracuse not playing in the tournament. Ironically, years ago, Syracuse was awarded the East Regional. I never believe in coincidences. I feel like God kind of puts everything on a path and ends up just working out that way and not being something that was a freak chance. I wanted to see the East Regional. I knew Syracuse couldn't play in it, so a couple of years ago I said, what am I going to do tournament-wise if I'm on the road and I want to get back? Is this the best thing that could happen to Syracuse with all the bad news and everything going on to actually see some basketball even though it's not Syracuse at the Dome?
I was hoping that Syracuse would play in the NCAA this year just to see how far they can get into the NCAA. I just thought that, we had guys that were guys that was phenomenal. I mean, I think Christmas did a tremendous job this year, too, also. Considering, the years that he was here, he had guys that was in front of him. And so sometimes that's just the way it is. You got to wait your turn. And, I would have loved to see Syracuse in the NCAA.
no Syracuse, but also no UConn, no Pittsburgh. Is it strange to you to look at a tournament and not see the rivals of Syracuse, not just not having the orange and blue, but Pittsburgh did some good things against Syracuse and Rakeem Christmas this season. UConn has won a championship in recent years. Was it strange to you to not see those two teams?
Well, yeah, it was strange to me to see those two teams too also. But again, I just think that maybe this year they wasn't good enough. I mean, I just think that, you know, again, when you're playing against some of these other teams that are lower seeds or maybe are a little higher seeds, it's so easy to get bumped off. And I think that's what happens to those two teams.
A team that maybe doesn't get the respect as high as they deserve, but they've obviously earned a lot of respect over the last 10 years, I would say. It's safe to say in the 21st century they've slowly grown in respect out of the West Coast Conference is Gonzaga. You and I both had them as a 2 seed moving on to the Sweet 16. Are they the biggest threat to Duke in your mind?
Gonzaga is always one of those kind of teams that's the biggest threat too also. So you got to watch out for Gonzaga. I think they have a great coach too also. And I think if they get close, if they get to the Final Four, I don't think they can beat Kentucky. Kentucky is just too big and too strong, and Kentucky knows how to win, and they have a great coach too also. But I just think that Gonzaga may be one of those teams that may get into the Final Four.
When you look at the only other one we haven't talked about, the West bracket, North Carolina and Arizona still alive in the Sweet 16. You have North Carolina going to the Final Four. I have Arizona going to the Final Four. Which team, after making this bracket, do you believe will make the Final Four? Do you still level on the side of North Carolina, or have you seen more from Arizona?
I think they are both good teams, but I just think that North Carolina is probably a little better than Arizona. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out too also.
Out of the Sweet 16, all the conference you look at, you know, different Big 10, Big 12 sending 2. The Pac-12 sent 3. There's other ones like the Missouri Valley, West Coast Conference sending 1. The Big East sent 1, and Xavier, believe it or not, that is a Big East representative. But the ACC sent 5 schools to the Sweet 16 in Notre Dame, Louisville, Duke, North Carolina, and NC State. Are you surprised that the ACC is at the top of it all going into the Sweet 16?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I can remember when I was playing in the Big East, I know we always said that the Big East was the best, but ACC was right behind us. And so I just think that the great teams that the ACC has, you can tell where some of these schools are at this point in the top 30. So I just think that they're super teams that may have a chance to win a Final Four.
Our East bracket is the one that I think we can go back and say something about, because I still have Arizona in the West, I have Kentucky in the Midwest, and I have Duke in the South. You have Duke instead of Arizona, you have North Carolina, and then you have Kentucky. So in the East, we both had Villanova, so now it's the time that I think is fair that we pick who we think can do this. NC State, Louisville, Michigan State, Oklahoma, 4 teams coming to the Carrier Dome. Who's going to come out of it going to the Final Four?
Well, I just kind of got to wait and see what happens, because the team that plays well and go out and do the things that they need to do on the court and know how to win games are the teams that's going to win games. And those are the teams that's going to win to go to the Final Four.
Let me put it to you like this. Mark Gottfried, because I don't think Oklahoma is going to do it. So Mark Gottfried out of NC State, Rick Pitino, Louisville, Tom Izzo, Michigan State, just coaching-wise, just thinking of the coach, if you had to choose today, who's going to make it?
I say Tom Izzo. I mean, he's just a tremendous coach, and he knows how to get his players to work hard, to put them in the position they need to be in. And I just think that you hear a lot of people, even on ESPN, you talk about Tom Izzo. You talk about how the team is so good, and, you know, he knows how to get his team where it needs to be.
I think if I had to choose right now the East bracket, I would say NC State over Louisville, Michigan State over Oklahoma, and it would be hard to go against Tom Izzo, but I did say at the beginning of the season, NC State would finish better than Syracuse in the ACC. They did. And I thought they were a dangerous team in the ACC tournament, which they were. They just fell on a bad game with Duke. They weren't able to stop Jahlil Okafor. But NC State going into all this, the farther they get, the more it proves me right from the beginning of the season. Tom Izzo, I've been saying forever, is a guy that you can't bet against, and I made the mistake of not listening to my gut. So I think NC State, Michigan State, either side, that's going to be a tough out for any team that makes it into the Final Four. And Gonzaga, I'd love to see them beat Duke, even though I have Duke. North Carolina, Arizona will be a heck of a game. And Notre Dame, Wichita State, I wish both of those teams would be fighting to get into the Final Four, but Kentucky's going to be at the top there. I think if Notre Dame and Wichita State, instead of playing against each other, take a week off to prep for Kentucky, then they play together on the court against Kentucky, then maybe we could have an interesting Final Four.
That would be interesting, too. It really would, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I just think, the upper part of the bracket with Kentucky, I mean, there's nobody that's going to take Kentucky out at all at this point.
Pearl Washington going with Kentucky. We both have Kentucky winning it all. You can check your bracket up against ours on WakeUpCallDT.com. We're in the Boreal Central New York Challenge, Cam's Pizzeria in Carvel, DeWitt. Thank you to every fan that went up against us. Our goal was 45 people to go up against Pearl and I. We ended up with 312, so thank you for that. We appreciate it. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with Pearl Washington and Syracuse Orange men's basketball history. Myself, obviously, Dan Tortora from Cam's Pizzeria, Lemoyne Plaza. We're very happy to be here. We thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you very soon. And know when it comes to basketball and it comes to shots and who can make them, there's no one I trust more than the guy sitting next to me, especially against Georgetown. And I think it's very fair to say that there's not a Georgetown fan in the country that would like to see you walking down the street to a court anytime soon, no matter how old you are, bro. I don't think anybody ever wants to put you on half court again, but for everything you do, obviously, Syracuse fans, thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.